Hey guys, this is going to be a review of Shadowhunters Season 3, Episode 21, Alliance. So we're finally at the series finale and the last two episodes that they wrote to add on to the end of Season 3 when they got cancelled. So I'm excited to finally be talking about them after years. Towards the beginning of the episode, we see Maris bringing Alex some food and basically just taking care of him, making sure he's okay. And I really love seeing moments like that because we do get the impression that Maris never did things like that when they were younger, so it's nice to see her actually doing it. Lilith goes to Magnus and basically she wants an alliance between them and for him to let her through the rift so she can go and kill Jonathan. And obviously that is a really bad idea because then Lilith will be loose in New York City. But I feel like the idea of Lilith killing Jonathan and getting Jonathan out of the way is probably tempting in another respect. It's nice that we get to see Maya really briefly in this episode, but then she goes to talk to her parents. And I'm kind of torn about this because on the one hand, character development wise, I think it's good that she's going to talk to her parents and I like that we get that, but she is hardly in the finale, either this episode or the next episode, and we don't see her at her parents or anything. And I understand why, because the finale is so packed with things and like a lot of high stakes life or death situations, whereas anything with Maya's parents would be kind of a moment of calm, which I feel like we need in the finale because everything is so fast. But I know it had to be fast because they were shoving everything in 2 episodes, and that's probably why we don't really get to see that, but I'm still sad, and it's one reason of many why I feel like there should have been a whole season for everything in these 2 episodes. Like, obviously they didn't have a season, they had to do it all in 2 episodes, but you can tell that there's so much packed in these episodes that would have worked a lot better if there'd been more time to develop them. Luke is injected with the Heavenly Fire Serum and he becomes a Shadowhunter again. I'm really torn about this. I don't really like this decision. I don't really understand it. From the perspective of Luke as a character, I don't feel like he really needs to become a Shadowhunter again. I feel like he was doing just fine as a werewolf, and like there's nothing about his character arc that where him becoming a Shadowhunter again really feels fitting. And then they only have 1 vial of serum. And from the Praetor's point of view, I get that they wanted to spy with the Shadowhunters and everything, and that's why they did it. But from a storytelling point of view, Luke being the one to get the file just feels strange to me. Simon and Izzy finally kiss in this episode, which is great after I've been waiting for that since season 1. But as they're kissing, Izzy bursts into fire, and it turns out she has the Heavenly Fire inside of her from when she got embedded with shards from the sword. This whole storyline happens with a different character in a slightly different way in the books, but I find it really interesting that it's Izzy in the TV show, and I like that we get to see her like dealing with that. Alec finds Lorenzo, doesn't know it's Lorenzo, knows that it's a chameleon or whatever, and he calls Katerina to come help. And on the phone, Katerina makes a comment about Magnus not liking reptiles, but in an earlier season, I think maybe season 2, maybe, but that's a complete guess. I don't think it's season 1. I feel like maybe season 2. When Simon, I can't even remember the specifics of the storyline. Simon needs Camille's grave dirt, I think, and they go to India to try and find it. And they're in Camille's apartment and they find that snake that's supposed to be like a gift that Magnus gave Camille, but Magnus is very friendly with the snake even when Simon's freaked out, and that's a reptile, and Magnus got along with the snake really well. So that like immediate, I don't know why I remember that detail because it is like a smaller detail, I guess. It doesn't really have much of anything to do with the rest of the story, but I remembered that, and as soon as Katarina said that line the first time I watched this episode, I thought back, like, that doesn't make sense because they had the snake earlier, and now every time I watch this episode, that's all I can think about during that moment. Alec asks Simon to turn him into a vampire so that he can go to eat him, which is kind of hilarious because it's such like a dramatic thing to ask and like doesn't really help the situation that much, but at the same time it's very sad because you know why he's asking and why he's so desperate. Clary invents the alliance rune that like ties a Shadowhunter and a Downworlder together, and this is something that happens a lot earlier in the books and for completely different circumstances. Because that had happened at such an earlier point in the books, I wasn't expecting to see the alliance rune on the TV show, so that was kind of a nice surprise. But also she starts getting resistance when she creates the rune, so you sense that something's going on, but I'll talk more about that when I talk about the next episode. There's a moment in this episode where the Seelie Queen is trying to encourage Jonathan to use his powers, and he starts, well, she brings him Shadowhunters who she wants him to kill, but he starts like hurting the trees and flowers, and she tells them to leave the trees and the flowers alone because they're not hurting him. And I liked that moment, not because she's encouraging him to kill Shadowhunters, but because it gives a good sense of what the Seelies do, I think, because they are supposed to be like protectors of nature and like the flowers and trees and things, but we don't really see that often with them. Like we see their realm and there are a lot of trees and flowers and it's very naturey, but we never really see them acting to protect nature that much. So I liked that that comment was in there, and it gave a bit of a reminder about what the Seelies even do. I almost forgot when I was talking about Luke, but there's some things in the finale where when you're watching it, you really feel like they meant for this to be a much longer storyline, and if we'd gotten a season 4, we probably would have gotten a storyline about it. I feel that way about Maya's parents. I definitely think we would have seen her like reconnecting with them if we'd gotten a season 4, but also with Luke and the Praetor wanting him to be a spy, because he gets out of that really easily. The Praetor's been threatening him and he's been doing what they wanted because they were threatening him, and then suddenly when he's a Shadowhunter again, he's like, no, I won't do that, and there are like no repercussions. We don't see the Praetor like try to do anything where you would expect him going against what they want. There would be more conflict than there is, and that's one thing where I feel like if we'd gotten season 4, I think there would have been more tension, more of the Praetor like going after Luke if he didn't do what they wanted, and I think that would have been an interesting storyline, but we don't get to see any of it, and instead it's just, he just says no and it's solved really easily. And they do reach Magnus and Edom at the end of this episode, so they're, well, I was gonna say they're all in Edom together, but they're not. I think Clary, Simon, and Alec and Lorenzo are with Magnus at the end of the episode, and Jace, Izzy, and Meliorn aren't there yet, so they don't know where they are. But I will save talking about what else happens in Edom for when I talk about the next episode. I watched it this morning, so hopefully I will film that video soon, and it is going to be a video instead of written on my blog. So I will see you guys later. Bye.